questions and stuff. Thanks for bringing me in. So in terms of how it's going to work, are we waiting for people to come on, or?
No, I think that's fine. People will be just be joining
as they go along. Yeah.
So just to start with and to be recorded, just welcome Ajay. Present yourself for these beautiful people, what you do and how you can help them, and then we're gonna get on with the questions.
Yeah, thanks very much. Little intro about me. I'm AJ. I work with a company called Pixel Pond. So we're a recruitment agency. I myself am actually a UX designer within the company, but as part of my job, I speak to our recruiters on a daily basis, talk to candidates, and basically my job is trying to make the candidate and hiring manager and recruiter experience the best that it can be. So yeah, through the research and through the activity that I do, hopefully I'll be able to give some of the people on the call some tips and things about what recruiters are looking for, and also companies as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. For those that doesn't know, Ajay actually helped me to join Kazoo. So he was my point of contact to do that.
Yeah.
And it has been a great experience, by the way. It has been an amazing experience.
Oh, that's really great. That's what we want. It's just about getting, I think we reached out, we connected on LinkedIn, and yeah, the most important thing is that we try and make it as easy as possible for candidates, and try and get that experience of finding a job and going through that whole hiring experience as smooth as possible. So yeah, it's always good to hear.
Yeah. So questions were set up on a Google Docs. I'm gonna ask questions for Ajay, and then you guys can take notes of the questions. I will send the questions on the chat as well, so you guys can read the questions and then he will reply. So the first question, I think it's an important one, and I think most of the designers, they get a bit confused with that because there is so many platforms. Where are recruiters most comfortable opening portfolios? Because we have websites, we have Behance, we have Medium, we have GitHub. I don't do GitHub, but I mean, some designers do, looks like. So where would be the best place to see a portfolio?
So I think you're absolutely right. There's so many different portals. And if a recruiter is actually interested about finding out about a candidate and seeing if they're the right fit for a role, or whether the role is the right fit for them, they will take the effort to go through as many of these things that they can, try and find out as much as possible. But I think if we were to pick just the top couple of places, it would be designers' own websites. One, because it's just a one click. You find a link from LinkedIn, or through the CV, and it's just one click, and suddenly you can see exactly what work people have done. And it also, because to some extent, I know there are platforms there, things like Squarespace and things like that, but it gives you a real insight into about the designer's own personality, the way they've designed their own website, how they're looking to present themselves. It gives you a good idea about what they're about. Yeah. Other than that, quite often we get PDFs, just case studies and a long PDF of a few pieces of work, and that works well as well. It's again, I'd say the main port of call is either through email or LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a big part of a recruiter's job. All of our recruiters are active on LinkedIn, and many people contact them through just messaging them, and we'll send a PDF portfolio to them or a link to them. So I'd say they're the top ones. Things like Behance and Medium are good. I think a few people use Medium to even do case studies, which it works if it's a set layout for you and you can use it. The bottom line is, it doesn't really matter where it is, as long as the case study's there and you've actually got something to display and the content is right. but the top one, I would say, I'd be surprised if people didn't have at least a PDF of their work.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Second question is, what are the main points when you evaluate a junior candidate?
Right. So there's a few points we'd be looking at with junior candidates. So regardless of whether you're junior or senior or lead, you kind of split up your soft skills and your technical skills. And as a junior, you wouldn't be expected to have sort of a huge arsenal of technical skills. You're at the start of your career. You don't have the experience of lots of builds and actually working with big teams. So naturally, the things that we're looking for is someone who has those soft skills and is able to actually learn. It's a skill within itself to be able to learn from other people and learn from the experiences. So number one on my list for a junior is this ability to be able to listen. That soft skill of being able to listen and communicate will do you a lot of good in a junior role. I think being able to explain your work and justify your designs is probably something that I on a day-to-day basis still work on. Like as a designer, I try and improve my communication skills and try and make it easy for other people to understand why I've done this, why I've made this change to this design. So number one is communication and listening. As part of the communication as well, this idea of presenting a project is really important. I think being able to talk through your project to people, talking through your project and presenting it not only to, in an interview situation, but being able to present it in a case study as well. So being able to do this sort of story, if you like, going through a case study is really important. These communication skills are both, written and spoken. Things like feedback as well. That's how you're able to take feedback from peers and colleagues. So all of these things are going to be the most important things when you're a junior. Another thing I'd say is problem solving. Yeah. So having some sort of initiative to try and solve problems and trying to consult others while doing that. That sort of ties in with communicating with the team. Empathy as well. I think that's important for a junior designer. These are like real foundations for designs, and that's what you'd be expected. And the final thing is, I say the last thing. It's actually not forgetting the craft as well. So someone who's actually a novice should at least be able to lay out and prototype interactive UI to a low fidelity, at least. Being able to have those sort of foundations of layout, things like Gestalt principles, things like that. So the foundations and being really, really good at them is really important as a junior designer.
True.
Yeah,
that was a good one. We talked about the positives and what they need. So now, what is the biggest mistakes junior designers commit on a daily basis?
I'd say one of the biggest things I see with designers, it's good to have a nice flow to a case study, for example, and to try and tell a story, I think. And that's something that a lot of people work hard at, to try and make it as easy as possible for the users. But you don't forget that it's not a perfect process. So what I try and look for in a case study is someone looking through going through the processes that they've gone through and picking out the point where they stumbled and that hurdle that they had, and showing that actually it was quite a messy process rather than it was a perfect, this happened and this, that golden thread of UX and design. It's never perfect, and it's quite refreshing whenever I see that, and it's surprising to me whenever I see so many portfolios that don't actually pick out the problems that they had within the process itself. Another thing is that a lot of people need to really make it a core principle that don't work off assumptions with your work, with the projects that you do. So displaying that you're not doing this off just, I thought of this and now I'm going to present this idea and this is my, just talking to someone, going on an online thread and showing me in a case study that you've talked to someone and asked for some, user feedback. Just, I know it's really, really, low key research. I mean, it's just talking to someone, but that's better than just going off assumptions and just doing anything. It shows me that your foundations of UX are there.
Yeah, that's something I praise as well. If you research at least with one user, it can be even your wife, your mom, you at least tried.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows that you understand that underlying principle of research.
Yeah. That's a good question for junior designers. Now, what would surprise you? I never asked you, by the way, this question. What would surprise you when interviewing a junior designer for a job or in the phone? What do you think it's a surprise effect?
Okay, surprise. I think I'm going to go for the thing that not quite surprised, like, wow, that was a really great thing to see. I'm going to go with something that I couldn't believe, they hadn't done this. So I get surprised when people don't know, really deep about the company, really understand the company that they're going in to interview with, more about their product. Lots of, I think one of the quite common questions within job interviews is, what's your favorite app as well? And most people are like, I don't know. So it's like, anything. You must use your phone, on your mobile phone, your app on there. Have just one or two apps that you use on a day-to-day basis and that you really love. Being a designer, you'd expect you to sort of think like that, and just to think about the apps that you're using on a day-to-day basis and start thinking, oh, what could I do better with that? Or, what could I, reinvent about this app? So, yeah, they're not your sort of surprising things about, that was really an amazing thing.
But it's still a surprise. You were saying about the two apps, and I was like, which apps do I really enjoy?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple question, but it seems to sort of go under the radar a lot. But yeah, doing research about the company is so important, and you won't believe how many people don't research enough and don't understand, what the latest products are of the company.
That's true.
One thing that does impress me is when people have gone out of their way to try and do real projects. So I understand as a junior designer, you may well have you may have like struggle working on real things. So it's you might look at an app and try and redesign it or something like that. But I always like it when people maybe go out to local businesses and try and say, can I redesign your website, or can I try and think of, some sort of new design for your service, something like that. But trying to take real examples and real businesses. Yeah. In the current climate, obviously, it's difficult to just go out and start knocking on doors, but there's definitely you can try and connect with people and try and think. I mean, this is maybe a time for people to rethink about their business and to think about other avenues that they might be going into. So
absolutely, that's something I like as well, when people don't, because everyone done Tesla websites, everyone done Coca-Cola website, everyone done Pepsi websites. It's like it's a standard. Everyone redo websites that has like 100 UX designers working on. Like you by itself, you're not going to make it a better job than them.
Yeah.
So just go in a smaller scale, find a small supermarket or company, non-profitable companies that they have real issues with real people, like elderly people. Like it's real issues for real life, not a Coca-Cola website.
Yeah, exactly. And you're able to really talk to the users about that and get, some really underlying good storytelling, I guess, for a case study. It's a bit more interesting. Yeah.
A good question. I don't know if you work for remote with remote designers. Have you found remote designers yet?
So at the moment, I guess, because of the current situation, a lot of people are remote, but not specifically for remote
Okay.
roles. Yeah.
So the question is a good one then. So can I apply for a job that isn't remote, expecting to negotiate later the possibility to work remotely?
Right. I think the one thing I'd go into every job application with would be clear and upfront from the start. I think trying to think of some sort of tactic about negotiating things later, it's just going to waste everyone's time, and it's not going to. It could well be something that you may open up about later and consider. Even the company might consider changing things. A lot of the time, companies sometimes find a really great candidate and they think you're a superstar. Let's try and change or scope the role towards you. So there are changes, but going into a job application with the intention of negotiating something a little bit different later, same thing happens with sometimes salary, where you think, okay, I'll just apply for something and then I'll try and sort of up it when I'm sort of later on down the line. It doesn't really work. It just wastes everyone's time. I would look out for jobs that are right for you and tick all the boxes, and maybe mention, oh, would you consider remote working, if you message before you put in the application, and then if they say yes, then it's the right company for you.
That's true. So talking about soft skills, when we talk about design, we talk about soft skills a lot, like how people need to collaborate and communicate. What do you think it's a most need soft skill for junior designers? Because they don't know a lot. They didn't have a real problem with a management or a PM or a product owner. But what is the most desirable soft skill that they need to practice and they need to have?
Right. So similar to thing I talked about earlier about the top skills for junior designers, regardless, I think communication is something that you really need to work on. So being able to articulate your design decisions well, being able to walk through, I guess if you're thinking of it from a portfolio point of view and the hiring process point of view, think about walking through your portfolio very well and your case studies. So, being able to articulate the UX process, be it from, discovery to research, to synthesizing that data, then planning, ideating, and then actually doing the prototype and then handoff. So being able to talk about that really succinctly and clearly is really, really important. So practicing that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
In terms of soft skills with sort of feedback as well. So being able to receive feedback well and not getting defensive about your work and your design, your ability to listen and your ability to take in all that feedback from other people is going to be really important as a junior designer, and that the idea of working with other people is the key thing. In terms of, I just picked up a message in terms of training. I think it's important to find ways of just getting your designs and getting anything you do to people and just asking for feedback and seeing how, I think just continuously doing it and hearing about your design more and more will help being able to take the feedback better. I think junior designers sometimes are in isolation and it's just them. If you're out in the community, if you're actually posting your stuff in public, if you're doing things like this, going on to video calls and getting involved with the community and putting your work out there, that's going to be the biggest thing to sort of train yourself to receive feedback, and also being able to give feedback as well. Even if you're a junior, you'd think that who am I to give feedback to someone, but it's helpful. Whoever it is, whoever it comes from, it's helpful.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna get questions from the chat at the end if we had any time, but let's keep going. So as a beginner UX, this is a big question. So most of the UX designers, when they start the career as a UX designer, they come from a different background. It can be engineering, it can be psychology sometimes, it can be, I mean, anywhere. Everyone now just becomes a UX designer. Yeah. Should they highlight these previous skills on LinkedIn or on the interview?
I think to some extent the previous skills, wherever you are, your previous experience, whatever you've done, somewhere or other, you could probably pick out a transferable skill from that to design, especially if it's a company that is in line with maybe your previous skills. So it's a product company that's doing some sort of legal app or legal services, and you've had some experience in administration or law. You might be a law graduate. Things like that are obvious things that you'd want to, that would give you an advantage because you know the industry in some way. But I think overall it just helps people to paint a picture about you. I mean, if you've got a huge gap in your LinkedIn profile or your CV, people are just going to be like, oh, what were they doing then? What's going on there? If you've just got all the design stuff, and you may well have a lot of experience even as a junior, but experience with your own projects or side hustles and things like that. But regardless, if you've got previous experience in other roles, it helps me understand what kind of person you are. Also, the story that you tell, why you've chosen UX, that helps someone understand your thought process and helps people think, okay, clearly, for even myself, I guess I'm the perfect example. My previous background was accountancy, and I thought this isn't creative enough. Even though I enjoyed the job, it was a great career, but I felt like I wasn't really doing something that was me. I guess it was more something I fell into, and it was a stable job that I decided to go into from university.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a strong reason for most people to make the jump usually when their career changes. Yeah.
This one is a touchy one. How do I, as a junior designer, start and keep a conversation with a recruiter?
Just reach out on LinkedIn. That's what they all are. I think that's where everyone is. The number one place to find a recruiter, I'm sure everyone knows, is LinkedIn. So it's as much as our recruiters, they have people reaching out to them on a daily basis. People will just be connecting, saying hi. A tip for actually connecting with them is always add a message. Don't just do a connection request. Look at the person. If you found them, from, I don't know, so say a talk like this, or if you've seen a blog that they've written, something like that, just mention that. You get a lot of people that just from just a sort of a widespread message, just get hundreds of recruiters and might just click connect. But really, it's not likely they're going to really respond to that.
Quantity versus quality.
Yeah, exactly. And they may well connect, but if it's actually a human message and it feels personal, you actually take the time out to respond. And make it as easy as possible for recruiters. I think in that message, if you can, try and once you've made a connection, attach your CV, your portfolio, be clear about what you're looking for, actually know what you want before you talk to a recruiter, and be open to critique from them as well. So if they suggest things, think like, this change in your CV or your portfolio might be better, structured like this, take that feedback and go with it, because it's in the best interest for everyone. They're not just I know recruiters have a bad rep, I think, for being sort of salespeople, but if you're in touch with the right recruiter, they will make they'll make the effort to try and get to know you better and try and understand what your needs are. So if anything, if you've got if you're in touch with recruiters like our team, if anything, they're the ones reaching out to you and trying to keep a connection, because in the industry, good designers, you want to keep in touch with them and keep them in your network, and just keep in contact. Yeah,
that's true. This is a question that, it's a generic question. What is the importance of a degree in a curriculum?
Right. Yeah, I think you get this a lot about just qualifications in general, where a lot of people feel imposter syndrome if they don't have a degree. It's not essential. I think a lot of the people that you'll find in companies that are practicing UX designers probably don't have a degree in UX. Most people would have moved in from, another profession maybe, or they may be from another creative background, maybe graphic design or something like that. But a lot of them are self-taught, and formal education is great because it gives you the foundations and it gives you the solid understanding of UX. But there's so many things out there, so many resources online, LinkedIn Learning, you've got, Skillshare, Udemy, all of these things which are really useful for self-taught designers. You can definitely teach yourself, but a degree won't hurt, right? A structured course and a structured qualification like that, it looks good on your CV, no doubt, but it's not essential, for sure.
Yeah. So, conscious of time, it's the last 10 minutes. I'm gonna get some questions from the chat.
Okay.
And then we do some quick replies in the chat there. Let me see. They have some questions here. Any tips for introverts, like people that are afraid to talk with people? That's a hard one.
I think you'd be surprised how many introverts there are within design. I think things like actually communicating with people and talking to people. If you're able to do it on an online and a virtual setting rather than in front of people, I don't know if that's more helpful for introverts. To some extent, it's that trying to get to know people and trying to understand people is the most important thing. And I think you can do that being an introvert, too. But as long as you're not sort of stopping yourself from sort of going out and making that connection with people, that's the difficult bit. I guess the only thing I can say is continue. If you're not able to reach out, set yourself maybe a task of connecting to this many people every week, and set yourself a goal to do that. So making it a habit rather than something that's like a really big deal. And the more you do it, and as it becomes more of a weekly ritual, it becomes less of a big deal, sort of just connecting with people and talking to people. Because from a job search point of view, networking is really, really important. So if you're an introvert and you're worried about, getting yourself out there or talking to people, I think you've got to sort of rip the plaster off and just remember everyone's just the same. Everyone sort of has that little voice in them who's like, or I'm not sure anyone really cares about what I have to say. Who the hell am I to talk to people about, jobs or anything? I'm not qualified enough to go on for this role, or I'm too junior. What's the worst that can happen? Really, you could just get a no, and then it's not going to be the end of the world. You just do it again and again.
That's
right?
true. Anna sent the questions in terms of UX research. So it's more specific. What do you expect to see in a junior portfolio related to UX research?
So I think the underlying thing of research would be talking to users. So I think maybe the key one, if you were to say the very, very lower bar would be maybe a survey, at least, to go out and building a survey, talking to people about the questions, showing that they're not sort of specific questions, and they're open, and you're able to get insights from users. So the way you actually construct your questions within the surveys, then you'd expect to go to surveys at least some usability testing or some user testing. So basically user interviews. From user interviews, you'd want to be showing at least 30-40 minute user interviews with individual users, and it doesn't matter how many you do it, as long as you're doing something. That's what I'm saying. I'm always sort of setting the bar lower and saying it doesn't matter if you haven't got a statistical correct number of people. With usability studies, people say at least 5. That's these things. At least you're mentioning them in the case study, and you're actually saying, listen, I know this is how many people I should have interviewed, but this is what I did. Doesn't matter as long as you've gone out and done it. So those two things at least I'd expect to see. And then going forward is actually analyzing it. That's important. So being able to synthesize your data, and you can just get to a sort of even an affinity map on your wall, at home. Just get some Post-its out and pick out those bits of research and show how you've actually used the research. So those 2 or 3 steps are a minimum, I think, for me.
Yeah, that's true. A question about salary. Now we're gonna get specifics.
Yeah.
How do junior designers negotiate salary, or do they negotiate? I don't think they negotiate. But how do they negotiate salary?
I don't think you should be worrying about negotiating salary. I think as a matter of negotiating salary, you should definitely think about salary and all of that at the last bit. Obviously, if within a job description, you'd hope to see the salary available, but I think going through it and going into a job application with the right figure in mind and understanding what actually your minimum figure is, being clear about that from the outset, and going into a job application knowing that the figure that's the minimum is right for me. So also another thing for me is, although you don't want to undersell yourself, as a junior designer, you want to just be able to get experience, and you want to be able to just get going and getting projects under your belt. So as long as you're able to make ends meet from that role, and it's not ridiculously low, I think generally as a junior designer, you should be looking around sort of the 25 to 35 figure. I think if you're able to hit that, I wouldn't be trying to negotiate it up too quickly.
That's a good one. And then final question, it's how these junior designers should defend their project. I don't like this word defend, because junior designers need to learn how to receive feedback. Sometimes it will be harsh, but how should they defend or explain their projects to receive a correct feedback?
Right. like you said, I think you're spot on about actually defending. I think what you need to be displaying is being able to communicate why you made that decision. And if you're able to say, this is why I found this bit of research, or from this user feedback, I decided to make this change because the developer said that this would be the best way to build this. This is the design, the change I had. As long as you've got some reasoning behind it, then that's how you should be able to describe, or what you call defend, your design decision. So yeah, it's pretty simple. As long as you've got some sort of backing and you'll be able to explain that, then that's defending it, I guess.
Yeah. So that was it, Ajay. I mean, thanks for your participation. I think we had many knowledge sharing. I'm gonna upload the video to YouTube so people can watch more times and learn more. I think a lot of people will add you, so prepare yourself for some connections on LinkedIn. But I really appreciate your time, and if you want to leave a word of knowledge for them, and then we can just end the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me on. And I guess the number one bit of advice is don't feel, I guess, having that resilience. Don't feel disheartened as a junior designer when you're applying. The percentage of CVs that people, that hiring managers and recruiters get is huge. So out of those, there's one role, and you're obviously going to get a lot of rejections, a high percentage of rejections in that. So you're not the only person who's getting rejected. Don't get disheartened. Just keep on going. Keep on improving, and having this junior mindset is what you want to keep going forward. Setting like that thing about those weekly rituals of applications, setting those tasks of I'm going to get through this many applications, and I'm going to reach out to this many people. As long as you stick to that, eventually it will come. There are lots of jobs out there, and you will get it eventually. Have that mindset. I think mindset is very important when you're in this junior position. Actually, throughout your career, having this mindset of just getting through it and dealing with that rejection. That's probably one of the key things when you're going in for job applications. Yeah.
So thank you, AJ. I will leave you to relax and get your time watching some series and some movies. Thanks again. And yeah, let's keep in touch in LinkedIn. You know where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone is well. I hope everyone's doing well during this pretty crazy time at the moment. I won't say the C word, but I hope everyone's safe and well. And yeah, just keeping on top of things and keeping safe. That's the big thing.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. Thanks
soon,
again.
AJ. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.